Welcome to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, the podcast for high achievers who want to stay sharp, focused, and full of energy despite their diagnosis. With your host, National Board Certified Functional Medicine Health Coach, Julie Michelson, where Julie helps you take your power back from autoimmunity. And now here's your host, Julie Michelson.
Welcome back to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast. I'm your host, Julie Michelson. And today we are joined by Emmy-winning TV host Samantha Harris, who may be best known for her 8 seasons as the host of Dancing with the Stars and her many years as a host of shows such as Entertainment Tonight and Extra. From hosting from every major Hollywood award show red carpet to starring on Broadway in the musical Chicago, she's been a fixture in the entertainment world. She's currently the host of the word play game, Tug of Words, on the Game Show Network. But at age 40, this wife and mom received a shocking diagnosis, breast cancer. Rising from that challenge, she became a breast cancer thriver, certified health coach and trainer, and the author of the best-selling book, Your Healthiest Healthy: 8 Easy Ways to Take Control, Help Prevent and Fight Cancer, and Live a Longer, Cleaner, Happier Life. And in today's conversation, Samantha shares her healing journey with us, and we dive into the power of mindset and stress management, movement, nutrition, and reducing toxic burden to live your healthiest healthy. Samantha, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks, Julie, for having me on. I really love the insight that you share with your listeners, and I'm happy to be part of it.
Well, we are so excited to have you share. Your story is so impactful, and pretty much most people that come on, most of us aren't in this realm because we felt healthy and happy our whole lives. Right?
Very good point.
Because even all the doctors I interview, had their turning point where they needed to go beyond medical school training.
Sure.
So I would love for you, I'm sure most listeners are familiar because you are so amazingly open about your story, but I would love for you to just share your journey of, it's not every day I get to interview, TV star. So how come you're talking to me today?
Oh, I love this. This is so fun. I'm usually the one doing the interviews, so it's really fun to have the tables turned. So here I was, on the top of my game with Dancing with the Stars and Entertainment Tonight and a stint on Broadway and Good Morning America as a special correspondent. And I was a new mom and my daughters were 3 and 6 and life just seemed awesome. I mean, this Minnesota girl who had dreams of being in Hollywood was achieving all these things that I really worked hard for a long time. And I also thought I was super fit and healthy, and I was like, quote unquote, the healthy one among my friends. They would make fun of me. My own sister would make fun of me for all of my egg white omelets and cheeseless pizzas and my skinless, boneless chicken breasts and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, this healthiest among all the friends and family girl got a breast cancer diagnosis. And it wasn't like, hey, here's your breast cancer diagnosis. It was months of chasing down something I didn't think was there, but wanted to be sure of. So I had a clear mammogram. I was about to turn 40. My dad, I lost him to colon cancer when he was 50.
Sorry.
And I just turned 50. And I realized I've got a lot of life to live.
Yes.
I'm so sad. Almost in some ways, I'm sadder now than I was at 22 when he was taken from me, because I realize how young 50 is. I realize how much more life he had. And he was our everything, this magical, amazing, just dynamic personality. And so, but we had lost him. His mom was a breast cancer survivor, lived to 95, postmenopausal, so no connection to mine because mine was premenopausal. So she had a very nice long life. But I thought, cancer's in my family. I should set a baseline and get this mammogram thing I keep hearing about. So there I was. I got the mammogram. The results came back clear because I was fit and healthy. And I was, just the rock star on the cover of all these fitness magazines. And so, of course, I was going to have a clear mammogram.
As expected.
Right. And so I was changing after a workout 11 days after my mammogram. 11 days. And those sports bras are tight. And you got to move the girls to the left. You got to move the girls to the right.
It's a
You
struggle.
around a little bit, get them back to like life, breathe the life back into them. And I'm feeling around. I'm not doing a clinical breast exam on myself. I'm just moving the girls around.
Just
and
living.
all of a sudden, I'm just living, Look, after breastfeeding, 2 kids, I was not afraid to touch my own body. So here I was manhandling my breasts and I found this lump. And I thought, that's so weird. I just had a clear mammogram. Why is there a lump here? I'm sure it's no big deal. I had a clear mammogram, but you know what? I could have stuck my head in the sand, but I didn't. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I called my OBGYN. She was always my most trusted doctor. She was very no nonsense, non-alarmist. She was the doctor, not my primary care. She was the doctor I called when I needed a referral to some other type of doctor.
Trusted her.
Yeah, I trusted her. She delivered both my kids, right? She knew me before I'd ever had sex, and then she knew me after I finally had sex for the first time. She's like, "It's about time. You're mid-20s." Anyway, is that TMI? I told you I'm an open book.
I love it because yes, I actually think it should be like a tagline. I have a daughter. You have daughters. I think we need to have conversations that there are healthy choices of waiting to have sex too. Like the things have changed.
Gosh,
I think.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, at least there's the HPV vaccine right now, for kids, but then, so cervical cancer is less of a worry, but, I'm grateful. Anyway,
that has its
a
own
whole
risks.
a topic for another time in terms of waiting.
That's another, we'll come back. We'll talk all about it.
Exactly. We'll talk all about having sex when you're older and not when you're a teenager.
And how great it can be.
How great it can be. Yeah, exactly. You just know So I went to see this OBGYN. She told me after a quick feel, the lump is nothing, sent me on my way. A month later, lump's still there, saw my internist, said to my internist, check this out. He did a clinical exam, said it was nothing. So 4 months had passed. The lump was still there. It was just gnawing on me that it wasn't painful, but it was there. So I had this nagging inner voice, and this inner voice, now it was quiet and whispering before. That's why I went to see the other doctors. Now it's shouting at me. It's saying, Samantha, if you're going to live with this, quote, nothing lump for the rest of your life, don't you think you might want to know what's inside instead of just feeling it? Like, how do they know? Are they they have these superpower hands that can feel and rate? That would be awesome. Could we please implant in the great of our doctors some sort of chip that they could just feel from the outside and they know what was happening on the inside? No diagnostics necessary.
But you know your body, right? Like you knew this didn't used to be there and now it's there and it doesn't belong there. So what is it?
Exactly. And that's when I said, okay, I need to see a doctor who looks at breasts every day as a specialty. I didn't realize when I was seeking that type of doctor out that the only doctor that does that is an oncologist who specializes in breast cancer. But there I was now finally with this oncologist. She's like, Samantha, you're not crazy. I feel something. I see something on the ultrasound. I don't think it's cancer, but let's do a needle biopsy. Let's do an MRI.
Okay.
Julie, when I tell you, not one diagnostic test showed it was cancer.
Yep.
And I've heard this story now being 2014 was when I was diagnosed. So I've now had many years of speaking to other survivors, and I hear this story all the time. So how did I then get diagnosed with breast cancer? Well, this oncologist said, good news, bad news, it's not cancer, but I don't know what it is, so let's take it out. So I had a lumpectomy.
Thank goodness.
Took it out. Woke up from that surgery, still told rough sections of that pathology in the room, so it's not cancer. Good news. So a week later, when I went back for my final pathology results, I told my husband, babe, you don't need to go. It was a gorgeous day. He loves to golf. Honey, no guilt. Go golf. You don't have to hang out.
Because I'm fine. They've already told me I'm fine. This is his formality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I sat by myself as I
Unsupported.
learned ductal carcinoma in situ, and then the word invasive. And then it was just this barrage of cancer information that I did not expect. And it was in that moment that my cancer journey began. It was in that moment that I had to pivot everything in my life in ways I didn't intend to, plan to, or see coming. But I also, after about 3 weeks of being so crushed under the weight and anxiety and overwhelm and hysteria of a diagnosis, having lost my dad to cancer, I at least got to graduate college because my parents were in their early 20s when they had my sister and me. So I got to grow up with my dad.
Right.
Girls were
babies. Yeah.
Babies. I mean, so the worry and the scared feelings I had, oh, Julia, it felt so awful. And I just knew, well, I didn't know. I had to come to a realization that I couldn't keep feeling that way.
Right.
Because I didn't know how much longer this journey was going to take. Was it going to be the rest of my possibly short life? Was it going to be a long journey? What was to come? What kind of treatments? What kind of surgeries? So after 3 weeks of seeing every doctor known to man with second and third opinions, with by the way, my husband at every single appointment.
Sure.
Yeah, he didn't miss another appointment. He was so crushed.
More golf for you this year.
Yeah, exactly. He was there, and we got all these different opinions, and I realized I needed to shift my perspective, and I think that was the first step in where I thought I was living a healthy life. I realized I needed to become my healthiest healthy, and the first step of that was realizing we have to be able to shift our perspective and turn negative self-talk and overwhelm into positive self-talk. I didn't know, by the way, those words were nothing.
Right.
I didn't know what those words meant. I also, when I finally
your book
that
didn't just pop right out of you in that moment.
It did not. I did not realize that those were words that I didn't even come up with that were out there, but I somehow figured. But I said to myself, I can't feel like this. I have to turn my perspective around. And I started to have that positive self-talk. And I said, okay, what in the situation of a cancer diagnosis is good? And I started to look at things. And this is where your listeners, no matter what is coming at them, what is being pelted from left and right, if it's a career, a relationship, a health issue, a disappointment, a death, a loss, when we can flip our perspective. And it is really hard sometimes to find the good and the positive. And I'm not saying put on rose-colored glasses and look at everything as rainbows and unicorns, but where is the gratitude? Where is the gratefulness that we can tap into? So I tapped into, okay, otherwise I am in really good shape and health. Right. That's going to mitigate any complications in surgery. It's going to get me back on my feet faster to recover after surgery. It's going to, as long as I keep up with my exercise and all the other shifts that I eventually end up doing, it's going to help reduce chance of recurrence. Maybe all the things I was doing, even though I've revamped most of them and added a lot of new good elements to live my healthiest healthy life, the things I was doing to be the one that my friends could make fun of, maybe help that cancer grow a lot more slowly than it would have. Yeah. So when I started to think that way, it was a game changer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I love that you started your journey that way. When I was first coaching for the first few years, like mindset was always included and important. And then finally I woke up one day and I was like, oh my God, you're doing it wrong. You have to start there. And then everything else becomes easier and exponential. Like,
exactly.
Oh, no, I should, call my clients from 7 years ago and just be like, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
We did work on stuff, but it's like, now it's like, no, we're front loading that. And so I love that you just intuitively, right? Your intuition told you, get this lump checked. Your intuition told you, wait a minute, I can't stay in this stuck, anxious, sad, scared place.
Right.
I need to shift, even if it wasn't conscious, like you just knew. Luckily, that wasn't your comfort zone. Right. Like,
and the fact that the mindfulness is also something I didn't even know was a term or existed, or I didn't understand the importance of it or the depth with which we should be mindful. And there are plenty of times, even this far out in my new Healthiest Healthy Life, that I have to remind myself consciously to be mindful, or remind myself when something is happening that is scary. I mean, I was back in the doctor's office and having MRIs and ultrasounds in the last few months because I found lumps, one little lump in the same location as my initial cancer. And of course, that's, your mind goes to, oh my God, it's back. And by the way, guys, I'm very confident that I am absolutely healthy. There is no more cancer, but our breasts like to create lumps, and there are fatty deposits that start to accumulate. But I thought, oh gosh, I went off my hormone blocker after 7.5 years. Maybe I went off too early. Right. So our mind starts so all of a sudden, the anxiety engine starts going again. And I talk about this in my book, and about how you have to throw a wrench in the anxiety engine to stop that downward spiral that happens so fast and wants to suck you down with all its might.
It is amazing. I had this conversation this morning that it's like just across the board, humans tend to lower their stress management routine when they're extra stressed. There's a trick. It's that anxiety loop that all of a sudden we're not doing our breathing. We're not being mindful. We're not, whatever our tools are that work for us day to day when we need to up level. And so that's such a great reminder. I don't know about you. I actually do know about you. We're never done, right? Like what healthy is today isn't going to be 10 years from now what your routine looks like. Right. We're always shifting and growing, God willing.
As we should be.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. But I love that you shared that, because none of us are perfect. Nobody has this down.
I think too, something that's important to point out, scientifically, we know from research that we as humans are actually wired to go to the negative. We are wired to get pulled in so easily. It's kind of like we say when we're in the middle of a stressful environment or we're sad, if we just choose to smile.
Yes.
Because our face wants to dip down. We want to go into that frown. We want to go into that hole. We want to curl up with the bonbons on the bed. But if you literally just make yourself physically turn the cheeks up and smile, your mood starts to lift. Right. If we make ourselves, our body wants to preserve energy. So it doesn't want to get up and move. It wants to just sit on the couch. And when you are exhausted after a long day of work, and the last thing you could possibly think to want to do is to go for a walk around your neighborhood. It just happened last night. My dog I'd been on back-to-back Zooms all day. My dog had been curled up because it's LA. It's not cold, but it was like 37 when we woke up from the morning.
For LA.
Cold for LA. So our dog, and he's a golden doodle. He's got a lot of fur. He was chilly. He's curled up like a cute little ball all day long. So I come home after all my Zooms back to back while he was curled up. Then I had to run and do carpool for the kids. I get back home. It's dusk, and I see that my dog has been in the house all day. And I said, you know what, I did not want to, I wanted to come in. It was cold. I wanted to come in. I said, we're going to go for a walk, and we're just going to walk down the block. But I chose to put my tennis shoes on and take off my comfy slides, my little UGG slides. Because I thought, there is a chance.
Just in case.
There's a chance that this walk down the block goes longer. We walked for 50 minutes.
I love it. I love it.
It was black when we came back. But, and it wasn't a power walk. It was a stroll. We did maybe 2.5 miles in 50 minutes. It's very slow. I did answer a lot of DMs on my Instagram, I will be honest. But we moved. So our body is wired to the negative. Our body is wired to not want to move, but it lifts our mood when we move. It makes us happier, more productive. The brain fog goes away. We sleep better. We make better choices with our eating. So in guiding others to become their healthiest healthy, that's why the book is called Your Healthiest Healthy, right? It's not a diatribe. It's not getting on a soapbox like a lot of I feel like the gurus who I've read and I love kind of say this is the one way to do it. But as you and I were talking off air before we started recording, we are all such bio individuals. And I went back to school after all my television career. After my cancer battle, I went back to school. I became a certified health coach. I've actually been a certified trainer for years. I used to teach group fitness while I was juggling 3 jobs to pay my rent while I was pounding the pavement auditioning in LA. And I've kept up my certification. And so, but the point is that we are all so different, and we have to figure out what works well for each of us. There are some through lines.
Universals. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, like no one really wants to have gluten. 70% of people are actually lactose intolerant. So those are two areas of food that could be reduced for most people.
And everybody should get up and move, whatever that looks like for you. Sitting on the couch all day eating bonbons is never anybody's ideal healthy plan. So,
right, exactly. It feels great. I mean, I would love to just, Netflix and binge all the time. But man, you know what? I'd probably be a miserable.
No, you wouldn't. You would be so stressed out.
Okay, you do know me, Julie.
Yeah,
you do.
I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So, so it's interesting the changes that we also can have the power to change in ways we don't necessarily realize. Like I said, I thought I was eating right. I was exercising regularly, and at Entertainment Tonight, I had a very busy TV schedule, and we only had about an hour of a break in the middle of the day when we would shoot. Sometimes from 4:30, 5 a.m. and we'd shoot all morning. And then there was this little break while we would feed the show up to the satellite. And literally that was the only time no one could get me to do anything because there was nothing to do because it was feeding.
Right.
And after it was done feeding, we would do reshoots because, of course, some celebrity updated their story, or we had to make a tweak on something. So we'd reshoot things before the evening satellite feed that would go out to the rest of the country because it was a syndicated show. And so on that hour break, I would do the stairs in the parking garage. I would do yoga in my dressing room. I would walk the studio lot. I would do something to move. So I was always moving my body. But the reasons I was moving my body, right? You talked about mindset.
Yeah.
Very, very different, right? It was extrinsic. It was all about how do I look standing next to my Dancing with the Stars pro dancers with these amazing sculpted bodies? How do I look while I'm on the red carpet in a gown?
The answer is stunning to all of them. But you bring up, actually, I want to circle back because we veered off before you finished that kind of
never veered.
The beginning part of your journey, right? It didn't just end with a cancer diagnosis.
Right. It did not end, right. It did not end with a cancer diagnosis. And then overnight, everything became my healthiest healthy. No, it was definitely a journey. So
you went through.
I had three. Yeah. So I had 3 surgeries in 2014. The last 2 surgeries, which were a double mastectomy and a second stage reconstruction surgery, required 3 weeks of being in bed, where I could only get up for 20 minutes every 2 hours. That was per my surgeon's orders. And so for someone who is full of energy, go, get your exercise in, run circles around my husband, my kids, and they were little. So if I could run circles around a 3-year-old, I had a lot of energy. So that was psychologically incredibly challenging.
It had to be. I mean, here you just were talking about, look, you make your living in front of the camera, looking stunning, being fantastic. And then all of a sudden, huge body change.
Huge body change, huge mindset change, huge range of motion change. I mean, after breast surgery, I had 11 lymph nodes out from my right armpit. So I had, started with 0 range of motion. And so it took months of PT and getting my full, I mean, I'm so grateful I can do yoga and reach high up to the sky now. Yeah. Now I just have to deal with the rest of my body starting to break down, where I have now a disc that's practically not there in my back anymore. So fun stuff like that. But I'm happy to be at 50, and I will take these all in stride and figure out how to move around them, Yeah,
I get it. I didn't think I would live to see 50. My dad had passed at 54. And so same, similar history with the kids are great motivators, and the dogs are great motivators for different reasons. And we know how precious life is, right? And what we want to be here for fully, not just, rotting in a chair, but actually living.
Right. I mean, I know every time I interview Dan Buettner, who is known for the Blue Zones, if anyone's heard of the Blue Zones, right? It's the 5 areas. Well, now there are more because he's extended other areas of the world that are the most longest lived people. And what I love about the Blue Zones is that these people who are living past 100, it's not about lifespan, it's about health span, and that they have lived to age 100 plus able-bodied, sound of mind.
Right.
They're still hoeing in the fields, and they're carrying their groceries from the market up 20,000 steps to the top of Sardinia's, peaks, and
gathering with family and community, and
And I think what you're speaking to, Julie, is that we want to, and I'm sure your listeners they're listening, not just because many of them are dealing with autoimmune disorders and other health issues and learning how to get the toxicity out of their body to live longer, but that our goal, I think, anyone who's listening to things we talk about,
sure,
they all are on the same game plan. Like, let's get to that 100 and be that one who's like running down the street on that morning jog.
Right. Absolutely. So obviously total reframe, right? Because you started your journey, and I keep coming back to, because to me it is the most important, all I do and all you do is help people take their power back, right? We all grew up in a way where we gave our power over to the all-knowing doctors. I love doctors. The love of my life is a doctor. Nobody becomes a doctor, for bad reasons.
Right.
It's just, and if I need surgery, I'm going to a Western trained doctor. Hands down, question. Like, I'm not getting acupuncture if I need emergency surgery.
Very grateful for my surgeons.
Yes. But when it comes to chronic health conditions, lifestyle conditions, cancer, autoimmunity, dementia, diabetes, fill in the blank, like and all the things that are, the numbers are exponential now. We have other options, and you're, to me, like, you're the most beautiful message is, be your own advocate. You knew your body. And even if it was a soft voice, like, you heard the voice of like, well, then what is it? Why is it here? And so if you hadn't listened, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Which is what's so scary.
It is.
I don't know if it was the journalist in me who just asks
why
different questions. My poor husband, he'll ask the simplest question, or want to tell
20 minutes later.
Right? Yes, and I'm still asking questions, and I'm interrupting all the time because I'm afraid I'm going to forget my question, which is why we have gone a lot of left turns here.
Well, that's but that's what functional medicine asks, the question why. Right? Like, yes, okay, get the cancer out of your body. But then I'm guessing your oncologist didn't sit you down and say, hey, Samantha, why do you think you got cancer?
No, not at all. No.
Right?
And specifically, I remember asking my oncologist point blank, so I keep hearing, does sugar feed cancer? Does it? And my oncologist looking me just straight, absolutely not. Don't worry about that. It has nothing to do with it. And studies have not been, strong enough to talk about that. So and this, by the way, this is the man who wrote the foreword to my book. He's incredible. He is the father of Herceptin, which has been a life changer for many HER2 negative patients. He is he's in clinical, he's amazing. But the challenge is the nutrition portion of any, as I'm sure your husband has shared any doctor in Western medicine, right? Nutrition is, I think they get a week, if that.
I think it's like 3 hours or a day. Like, I don't even think it's a week. And if it's what if it's at least what it used to be, it's all backwards and wrong. And it's
right. And nutrition science. We think about nutrition science is changing so rapidly. Literally, what you learned last week could be completely different from what comes out next week, which is why there's so much confusion, right? You mentioned off camera that you've done the keto thing, and then the people I know who had breast cancer had done macrobiotic, and then there have been people who've done, there's so many different schools of thought on nutrition, and so it's paralyzing to think, well, what should I do? I'm just not going to make any changes because I'm getting too much conflicting information. So the reason I dove in headfirst into research after my diagnosis was because I learned that of the 1 in 8 women who will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer in her lifetime, only 5 to 10% are genetic. And when I learned that mine, despite my dad and his mom's cancers, mine was not genetic. And I've had even a follow-up panel with 180 different genetic tests.
Right. They keep identifying more genes and mutations.
So is it possible maybe in another 40 years that there'll be some random little gene? But there are 180.
But even if you had the gene, you had to turn it on.
And that I think is one of the most powerful things. Honestly, this research finding for me was the aha moment in my very stolen control of my life and health that cancer gave to me. I got to take control back because I realized in that moment, in that discovery, hold on a second. Even if my genes are saying one thing. And granted, if I were BRCA positive and I had a 70 or 80% chance of a cervical cancer or breast cancer, I'm sure that I would probably undergo prophylactic surgery because that's a very big percentage of risk. However, for the majority of others and the 85 to 90% of breast cancers that are not genetic, what can we do? How can we take back our power? And what other genes are there for dementia, Alzheimer's, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain autoimmune disorders that are happening somewhere dormant in my body?
Right.
That I can choose by lifestyle changes to turn on or keep off. So I wanted to keep things off as long as possible. So that's why I started to systematically, but in a very slow, small, manageable step way, which is what your healthiest healthy is really about. It says it doesn't matter if you want to be keto or vegan or this or that. It does. Everyone needs to move their bodies. Everyone needs to manage stress. Everyone needs to have a plant-based foundation.
Yes.
And then you figure out, okay, how am I choosing to eat? And then what works for your body? I mean, I recently, because my iron is so low and I have the MTHFR gene that a lot of people have. So my homocysteine levels, which brings with it a lot of scary risk, is always elevated no matter how much B12 and folate I take. And so I literally just had a conversation yesterday with a functional medicine doc who is Dr. Will Cole. Do you know him?
Oh, yeah, I know Will.
Gwyneth Paltrow's guru and functional doc. I was on his podcast, and when we got off, I said, I'm so sorry to do this to you, but I just have to ask. I'm sure everyone does this when the camera goes off. I just said, what do I do? What do you think I should do?
Add trimethylglycine. Did he say add TMG?
No, okay. He said maybe add some creatine. And he said, and you might need a high quality, just a small serving once or twice a week, 2 or 3 times a week. You might need a small serving of organ meat or like now. I mean, I grew up in Minnesota eating.
You can get grass-fed, capsules.
Right, exactly. Well, I said I did get like a beef stick that's grass fed, and he recommends for some of his patients, and some other people did as well. So I got it not for me, but for my daughter who loves hamburgers, and it drives me crazy because originally we said you can have it once or twice a month as long as it's grass fed. That's out the window. She's grabbing it anywhere she can get it. Doesn't matter if it's literally mystery meat.
So give her the good meat so she'll stop.
She won't eat it. She goes, wait, ew, I'm not going to eat meat that's in a stick. And I go, seriously? Anyway, but I have it in the house now, and now I'm like, I wonder if I can.
I wonder what my body's telling me.
It's telling me. Because I am so plant-based and I have this fear because of all my research of like, okay, more animal meat can potentially lead to higher cancer risk. But there's a lot of.
But you're a researcher. Dig deeper in that research, because that animal meat is not grass-fed, pastured, happy animal meat.
Right. And that's what exactly. And that's
those studies. Yeah.
I think if I'm having it a couple times a week, maybe. You're right. So again, here's someone who now for 10 years has been plant-based, whole foods, a little bit of fish, maybe poultry a couple times a month, if it's organic and if I can get it pasture raised. Haven't touched red meat since I moved out to LA, even though I ate everything, including tongue back in Minnesota in the day, and liver, although I didn't want to eat the liver. My mom made me eat the liver. Although now apparently organ meat is good for you as long as it's proper.
Isn't it funny? I know. It is the most nutrient dense food you can get.
Right. So I'm like, how do I down this now? It just tastes like blood to me. So I'm like, I don't know if I can handle it. But anyway, so it's interesting. We have to know that listening to our body, if we have the means to be able to get proper testing, there's so much. I know functional doctors can be so exorbitantly expensive because insurance doesn't take it. But there's so many wonderful direct-to-consumer ways to also begin to manage, whether it's a constant glucose monitor or it's a test. There's a company that tests your glucose, your triglycerides, and your microbiome, and they have an app that follows you, and that's out of England, and it's available in the U.S. that I've tried a few times. They're the ones that tell you what your biological versus chronological age is. Right? There's all these different things. The sleep trackers, different ways that we can start to biohack and get to know what's happening in our body so that we can take that action later.
Yeah. And it does help you. So many of us, I am definitely in this boat, especially when I was at my sickest, we get disconnected with those signals that probably saved your life, right? We don't hear, we're not listening. All of our symptoms, all of the things we think of as aging, it's our body telling us information. And so, intuitive eating is a thing, like paying attention and really listening, but like starting with like, what are you actually eating? Because a lot of people have, we're good at fooling ourselves, and we think, oh no, I eat all like whole real foods. And it's like, no, that's not food. I wouldn't eat that.
And that's why I think when I only work with a handful of private clients at a time. But when I do, I always have them food journal, but not just write down, because I think you're always amazed when you have to write it down. You could also do it on a phone app or something. And you don't have to be working with a private coach to be able to do that. But if you just journal for, even if it's not an entire week or two, if they say it's 3 or 4 days of the weekday and 1 day on the weekend, you'll be amazed at what you're consuming that you may not realize you're consuming, even if it's not like I'm making my kids' meal and I'm eating some mac and cheese from there that I didn't realize.
It counts. I used to joke, if you eat it standing up, it all counts. If it's on your kid's plate, if you're eating standing up, it all counts.
Exactly. Well, and the other thing I also encourage my private clients to do is to write down, when you're journaling, write down how you felt before you chose to eat that. Maybe why, like physically how you felt, and also
why. Here's that question again. Why?
Why are you going to eat that right now?
Right.
What's your reasoning? And it might be as simple as, because I freaking really want an ice cream cone right now.
Right.
But
I would ask why again, because are you tired? Are you stressed? Are you like?
Right. Good. Right. And that's that thing, that follow up of why. Always just keep why. And it might be 10 layers down of asking the why.
Your husband loves these conversations.
And then also, how are you feeling 30 minutes, 2 hours after the meal? Are you feeling bloated? Are you feeling distended? Are you feeling brain fog? Are you feeling lethargic? Are you feeling awesome? Are you feeling happy? Where are you there? Because I think that also makes a difference.
Sure.
I know too, I'm going to just jump subjects for a second, because I want to make sure we talk about, because we mentioned toxicity briefly.
Thank you. I was like, I'm going to, right after this, because we have to get it in, because it's huge. We can't.
It's a big part of turning on or leaving off those certain signals in our body that lead to certain diseases.
So let's talk about it. And people think, well, I'm not, flat on my back, sick in bed. So I'm not toxic. I don't have to worry about it.
The levels of toxicity in our body that are undetectable are usually pretty high. And where is that toxicity coming from? It can be coming from such a myriad of places, right? It can be coming from toxic relationships. And that doesn't mean like you're in an abusive, mentally or physically abusive relationship. It could literally mean it's that mom you see at school pickup who every time you talk to her, your shoulders are up at your ears because you're so stressed out by that woman, and you have to have some boundaries. So there's relationships that build on that toxicity. It's, look, most of us are not going to move from wherever we're living because of the air we're breathing. I live in the valley of LA that's covered in smog half the time. I'm not leaving LA anytime soon. So what can I do to mitigate that?
Right.
What are the toxins that are in, are you drinking water out of plastic bottles? I mean, I just saw on the news here in LA, this latest study that came out about the plastics in our water bottles, that they finally have a microscope that could see truly how many plastics are in there.
Yeah. And then there's, we think about what people will say all the time. Oh, it's BPA free. I'm like, yeah, but it has 800 other toxic chemicals in it. But the public knows BPA now, right?
I say the same thing about paraben, right? So people are
Yes.
like, oh, we know parabens can be carcinogenic or endocrine disruptors. I'll make sure that it says paraben free on whatever I'm buying. Or I'll make sure that lotion I'm buying for my body says organic. Guess what? Those are BS terms in marketing.
Or natural. Like
Or
lead
natural.
is natural. I don't want it in my lipstick. Like
Right.
it's, yeah. So let's talk about that, because we already touched on, this importance of mindset.
Yes.
And whenever we start to have a conversation about toxins and health, it can seem like total Debbie Downer, doom and gloom. Air, water, food, you name
Just
it.
don't ever leave your house again.
Exactly. Except your house is toxic, and your indoor air is worse than your outdoor air.
You know what's in your mattress, and that's one. Furniture is one place I have, and my clothing. I have not, because I keep seeing these things that pop up about like my Lululemon. I'm like,
oh my gosh, I know.
Don't tell me my workout clothes.
So it has taken me a while, and I think we kind of probably all go through this phase of we always aim for perfectionism as we learn. And then we realize I can take my power back without living in a cave, right? Or without locking, cleaning up my house and then locking myself in it for the rest of my life. There is no bubble option.
There is no bubble option.
Once we we all have a different tipping point. You mentioned MTHFR, right? There are specific, certain genetic predispositions to being bad detoxers. I am a collector, literally. Like anything that's bad for me that comes in contact with me, my body's like, yeah, let's hold on to that as long as we can. So everybody has a different tipping point, or, you may feel amazing. I still guarantee you have a load of toxins in there. So my approach is we reduce the burden and control what we can, make your home your haven, and what's going in, on, and around your body. And I know we're aligned in that as far as, but where do you start? And you travel and you're out and about all the time. So
Right.
How do you do that and stay positive?
It can be crushingly overwhelming, which is why, like you said, we have to take our power back, especially the more we go along this healthy, clean living, straight line. The more we know, it's why my kids probably honestly hate me.
Oh, I get it. But wait until they're even older and it becomes so satisfying. Like when they're like, oh, I read that label and I could never eat that now.
Oh, I hope, gosh, thank you.
It happens. Mine are in their 20s. It happens eventually.
Yeah, at 13 and 16, it's all about Starbucks. And I'm like, I just don't even, I can't even. Anyway, so.
But they do filter their water at Starbucks at least.
Well, that's good. Oh, that's good. That's good to know. So we'll forget that their chai latte has 56 grams or 64.
And corn syrup and whatever. Yeah, we won't go there.
So beyond that, so here's the thing. As you start to go along this path and you get that feeling of overwhelm, I want to encourage you to your listeners to take a breath and know that any step forward is going to be beneficial, is going to help to reduce the chances of all these horrible things we've been talking about. And also to know that it's not a 180 and it can't happen overnight.
Right.
It has to be about small, manageable steps for sustainable change.
You sound like a coach.
Right? It's about the consistency. So if it's like anyone who goes on a crash diet, right? We always know they rebound, yo-yo back,
totally.
And they gain all the weight. You want to make these sustainable changes last forever. So like, I wouldn't even think twice now to not take the stairs if I know I only have to go up a flight and the stairway's right there.
Right.
I would not think twice about, am I going to exercise this week? No, I know I'm going to exercise. It's just a matter of which exercises will I do. And actually, even that is pretty much locked in. And every so often I change it up. I'm always changing it up, by the way. Keep your body guessing, keep your mind engaged, prevent overuse injury. So change up what you're doing for your workouts every week. When it comes to all the things that you're changing, though, whether it's, like you said, in, on, and around your body. So the people around you, the chemicals like cleaning supplies around you, on your body, your makeup, your skincare, your hair products, in your body, your food, your supplements. As you're beginning to make those changes, if you can aim for an 80-20 rule, and hey, if eventually you get to a 90-10 rule, amazing. But even if you stay at 80-20 or you're at 60-40, but you were at 50-50 before, you're making that progress. And each of us, as we mentioned, are bio individuals. So for me, I still color my hair.
I was just going to ask, come on, do you have any non-negotiables, right?
See, look at there. I'm leaning forward to show you my but here's what I do. I mitigate. So as much as my kids will be like, Mom, could you please go color your hair? You are so gray.
Oh, yeah, you're horrifying.
Oh, I'm horrifying. How embarrassing, right?
That's your job. Embarrass the kids.
It is my job. But what I do is I go as long as possible between salon visits. I have a formaldehyde free and free of a couple of the other most harmful chemicals that I get from like Whole Foods that I do at home to just cover the grays a little bit and lengthen the time between salon visits. Does it look as good as it does when I go to the salon? No, of course not. I don't have any highlights. It's one step color. I pop it onto my, my part and I sit for 20 minutes and whatever. Right. But there are ways to also mitigate that. So there are, I still have ice cream from the local shop down the street because it's fun to go out for ice cream night with kids, right? Yeah. I love sushi. I know my mercury, again, we talk about what our bodies do. My body it holds onto those toxins. It does not want to get rid of that mercury. So when I test my mercury every quarter, it's usually a little high, even if I only have sushi once a week. So what do? Well, I infrared sauna to get the toxins out. Sometimes I'll do a charcoal binder or something else with the sauna. I obviously exercise to sweat and get the toxins out. So there are other things I do to try to mitigate that a little bit.
Have some chlorella when you have your sushi.
Oh, I just started. And I have no connection to this company, but I want to interview. Actually, I'm going to be interviewing the owner of it. Energy Bits.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah.
Okay, so I just finally discovered them. So they're chlorella and they're spirulina and they're little tablets and I love it. They say these are not supplements. These are actually just food that's been compressed down into little tablets. So you can chew them. They're not tasty, but you could chew them. You can swallow.
You can form a fondness for them.
I throw them into my smoothies. It's just easy to have. Adding another, again, just leveling up. If anyone who's listening wants to, because again, I spent my life of a career on TV in a makeup chair.
Yes.
With hair and makeup that could last 12 hours under hot lights without moving, an inch. And so my last show that I shot, it's still on TV. It airs every weekday on Game Show Network. It's called Tug of Words. It's a fun, if you like Wordle or game, fast word cliche. So Tug of Words. But when we shot Tug of Words, we shot 65 episodes in 3 weeks, 6 shows a day.
Wow.
Fast, furious, 12 hours a day. My hair and makeup girls are really good friends of mine. And I said, girls, we're going to go into this show. I don't want anything that doesn't pass the Samantha test for ingredients for my hair and makeup. Do you think I challenged them because they're used to working.
Sure. They have their products and those are not clean.
No, every big brand.
Sure.
Pretty much is toxic.
Right.
And so, all the big conglomerates, now they're starting to buy up the small mom and pop shops that are clean because they're realizing, thankfully, with our consumer dollars, we can demand we need clean products and not greenwashed or pink washed BS. We want the real stuff that's free from from all the chemicals that are banned in Europe, the 1400.
Let's just start there. Like that would be.
We just maybe we'll charter a plane. We'll just go to Europe and we'll just shop at their store.
Shop there.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? So instead, we can, so basically what I did is I vetted, we had a ton of different brands that we either bought or had sent to us at the show.
Okay.
Hair and makeup. And we tried so many different brands. So I put together a list of the brands that I liked the most, but that worked and lasted, because it doesn't matter if you're shooting a TV show for 12-hour days or you're getting ready early in the morning, going to work, going to a dinner or a school function. We all need stuff that works and lasts and that we enjoy, and we enjoy putting on our bodies. That's part of the fun of beauty, right? So if anyone wants my vetted list,
everybody wants it. I'm telling you right now, everybody wants it.
I put together a little PDF. You guys, I'm on Instagram and Facebook the most actively, Samantha Harris TV, like television. So Samantha Harris TV, just send me a DM that just says clean beauty and I will send it to you. because I love sharing it. I think it's so important to be able to just know.
It's so helpful to have you curated this amazing, because that's an upper level. I like to help people, give them areas of like, okay, you could use EWG, you can use
Yes,
there are more and more. Not that none of them are perfect. Products change is another problem. You buy a clean product and all of a sudden they've changed the ingredients again. So we have to take but to have a list like that, oh my gosh, what an amazing gift.
And I even put on it some of my favorite cleaning supplies that are clean. I mean, we can all DIY cleaning, like distilled white vinegar and baking soda are awesome and they clean a lot of great things. But if you don't feel like DIYing it, I have a list of some cleaning products, as well as anti-aging skincare that's EWG verified and really clean, but also has the clinical trials and all the science behind it, because I also want the proof. I want to know that, especially if I'm using something like that's makeup, we don't need clinical trials. Right. We need clinical trials. But first, when it comes to anti-aging products, we do need trials, and we need companies that stand behind their word, and they're not going to get bought out by a big corporation that's going to change the ingredients. And so anyway, I put all that on there too. So just DM me, send me a message, or if you don't know how to DM, because I know some people say, I don't know, I'm not, just put a comment in any post of mine that says clean beauty. If I didn't get back to you fast enough, put in another comment. I promise I'll get it. Yeah.
I love that. And your feed is amazing. There's such gold in there. And I don't know that a lot of people realize, you did mention, but you work with clients. You have amazing groups and retreats and opportunities for people to work with you directly.
It's one of my favorite, I think social media is a blessing and a curse for anybody, right? We can get dragged down, and that's why we do a social media detox, you guys. Talk about toxins in your body. Anyone you're following that you get stressed out watching their feed because you don't think you're keeping up with them, or you're doing well enough, or you're just
unfollow. Yep.
Unfollow, exactly. But what I love about it is I have been able to connect with so many women. First of all, every breast cancer survivor who's ever DM'd me, and by the way, if you're listening and for some reason I didn't get back to you, then somehow I missed it, because I get back to literally every single person. And it's probably because I'm not getting hundreds of thousands of them a day. If that ever happens, it might be a little more challenging. But right now it's manageable. So, but I love that I've been able to connect, whether it's just answering a question or two here and there, or people who join me at one of my retreats. I lead one in Utah every year. I have one in Santa Monica every year. I just got back from Canyon Ranch, where I was doing a wonderful, fun program there. So I love doing these retreats. But then for those who want something more from me and more access to me on a regular basis, I have a private membership community, because I really only take a couple of private clients on at a time. And so I wanted to be able to reach more people. So every week in my Your Healthiest Healthy community, it's a live coaching session, a live guest expert, and either a live or pre-recorded workout that I teach. And the guest experts have been phenomenal. I know I mentioned Dan Buettner from the Blue Zones, and we've had, Joel. These names might mean something to your listeners, and they might not mean anything, but David Perlmutter from the Green Brain, Dr. Neil Barnard from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. We've had Joel Furman multiple times from, Eat to Live. So many really phenomenal experts that come in, Dr. William Lee and Dr. Elizabeth Boehm, and anyway, the list goes on, but really great people. Will Bolsowitz, if you guys know, gut, he's all about the gut health doctor. He's fantastic. So what's nice about it is that these experts come in and spend time. We do about a half hour together, and in real time, you have access to them to ask questions, and I'm asking questions the whole time, and then everything lives in a recording. So if you miss it, you don't really actually miss it. But I love that. But for people who just want, what, I don't want to invest in my health financially. I just want to kind of grab it when I can get it. I want to encourage you to invest in your health, whether it's with me or with Julie or with someone else, because investing in your health now is going to save you a lot of money and a longer life later. Yeah. But I offer free challenge groups, like a 5-day hydration or Eat the Rainbow challenge. I'm doing a 21-day whole health overhaul right now. Okay. So lots of fun opportunities for that as well. So I love it. And I'm doing the TV thing, but really the health and wellness certified health coach life passion into purpose is
Yeah.
90% of the time of my career now.
Which is amazing. And although everybody loves seeing you on TV as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
But really, just if you want to see her, like, check out her feed. It's amazing. You give so much gold. And like you said, whether it's joining the free challenges, joining the group coaching, the community, going to an amazing retreat. I know where some of your retreats are. They're some of my favorite resorts, or working one-on-one. If you're that person that's like, no, I actually want her to be my person, then I can't suggest strongly enough, you guys reach out.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it goes right back to you. And if people are listening and they're not working with you, they need to reach out to you and make sure they're following and getting everything.
Thank you. As you said, find somebody, right? Whoever it is that resonates. But, our health is our greatest wealth. And so there is not necessarily time later to address it. So do it now. So here's before we go.
Yes.
You've already given us so much, but what is one thing we can do today, if listeners can do, just starting immediately to improve their health?
Flip your plate. So what I mean by that is fill your plate at least half full of veggies at every meal. So that's one of the reasons
I get that all the time.
Right. And well, that's one of the reasons why I switched from having, back when I ate 21 out of 21 meals a week of animal protein and my breakfast was either yogurt or eggs. That's why, or sugar-laden cereal that I thought was healthy. I would use milk and whey protein in the milk to get extra protein. So I was getting extra milk, and I don't even think any of it was even organic, and it was definitely not grass-fed. But it's why I switched to having a smoothie every day. I can pack so many greens and chia and flax and all these plant-based things and matcha and the chlorella and the spirulina, all these things into it that I wouldn't necessarily eat throughout the day. But it is so packed with nutrient density that it curbed cravings. It satiates me. It gives me the energy I need to keep going. And I don't get the brain fog. I don't get the low energy dips at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
I don't want to fall asleep at 8:00 at night when, my kids are going to bed later now, but when I was putting them to bed. And so it's really quite amazing. And I've also vetted a lot of different protein powders. So if you want my picks on that, let me know, because I think there's a lot on the market and it's very confusing.
And there's a lot of junk. And a lot of it is so bad. Read your labels, people. Turn it around. Step one.
So one piece of advice,
amazing.
Flip that plate.
I love it. I love it. Well, I already kept you over time, so I'm going to give you the rest of your day back. I cannot thank you enough for everything that you shared and for taking the time to come on with us. I so appreciate the gold you've given us.
Thank you, Julie. I really appreciate the opportunity to share and get to hopefully know some of your listeners over there on social media.
For everyone listening, remember you can get the transcripts and show notes by visiting inspiredliving.show. I hope you had a great time and enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity. Did you enjoy this episode? Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to get a transcript of this and every other episode, just head on over to inspiredliving.show or click on the link in this episode's description. There, you can also find everything we discussed in this episode, including links and information about our guest. You can even send in your questions to be answered by Julie in a future episode. That's inspiredliving.show. Until next time, this is Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, helping you take your power back.